Oh my goodness, I totally forgot I was recording this whole time. Folks, listen, if you've been with me this entire time, I appreciate you. I've been in this airport carrier hangar for almost 2 months now, just waiting for a mode of transportation to get to Primetown 2022, hosted by Young Adult Cancer Canada, the summit everyone is waiting for. And if you've been with me this whole time, I mean, kudos. I've had to change shirts and hats a few times. But if it's your first time kind of jumping on my recording and my adventure, I'm Alex Mandarino, your host and guide for a road trip to Primetown, the summit hosted by Young Adult Cancer Canada in partnership with Cancer Care Manitoba and Cancer Care Manitoba Foundation. Now, interestingly enough, while I've been waiting, and for those of you who may have missed me for a bit on my hiatus and prep, it's almost felt like Survivor in here, and you'll actually get that Survivor joke a little later when we get to June 2nd to June 4th, 2022 for this event. They actually did have a pamphlet, sort of a brochure, if you will, about Primetown in this hangar of all places. So I'm actually just going to read it out. So Primetown, it is a free virtual cancer summit for young adults and for those who care for them. And really, it's an unforgettable event, folks. It's designed to empower, educate, connect, and support through free workshops, keynote speakers, panels, even social activities. And it's for young adults, those who care for them, as I mentioned, healthcare providers, supporters, parents, even guardians. I mean, the gambit is it's all over the place. But as you can probably tell, I'm wired. I got a lot of energy and I'm getting a little bit anxious. So before I kind of run through here, I'm going to kind of calm down. I'm going to call a few friends as they make their way to Primetown, and they're a little bit more sort of empowered than I am because they are the session hosts, people that are going to be talking to you from Primetown from June 2nd to June 4th this year. So my first friend, just to kind of calm me down, my friend Jay Abramovitch, who is representing Man Up to Cancer, an organization for men living with and beyond cancer. He's going to be joined by Trevor Maxwell, the host, as well as a few other members of that organization. Hoping Jay can show me out. I'm going to see where he's at. I'm hoping to have a plane, whatever that might look like by the time this call ends. So I'll check in with you folks later, but listen to this exclusive interview. All right, folks, I have our first guest with Road Trip to Primetown, Jay Abramovitch, and he is a representative of Man Up to Cancer, which we'll get into a lot more today. Also a YACC activist, someone we've chatted with who's super engaged in the community. I'm super pumped to have him join me on my first kind of call, getting ready to hit this Primetown. As you can see, I haven't picked my vehicle, my plane as of yet, and Jay's here to kind of point me in the right direction. So Jay, appreciate you jumping on with me. I have just a quick question to kind of kick things off. Curious to see, what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Oh, geez, that's a good one. I'm pretty modest, so I don't usually cut out. These questions are the stumpers for me, but I would have to go probably determined, compassionate, and just extremely driven.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I can tell based on conversations prior, Jay, I know we haven't been too familiar with each other, but I know we've crossed paths, so I could probably attest to a bit of that too. I love it. And so what we're really talking about here today, I want to get people pumped up for the session on Saturday, June 2nd at Primetown. But before we get into that, curious about your role within this collective. So from your experience with Man Up to Cancer, really what is this collective, this organization, and what kind of made you want to be a part of it?
Yeah, so great question. So luckily my kind of journey has been fairly short. I'm kind of just over about 1.5 years in, NED, life's going great and stuff. So can't really complain in that regards. But YACC was kind of my first big community that I found, which was super important very early on. And then just a couple months after I was introduced to Man Up to Cancer, and very, very similar goals, similar mindsets, very similar organizations actually, and what their kind of major goals in the cancer community are. But there was the focus is obviously men, right? And that's something obviously that as you and a lot of listeners will know that is a very underrepresented, such lacking of resources for men specifically, especially young adults, right? Young men going through kind of a lot of very different challenges and maybe your typical cancer patients, maybe later on in life. So I was very, very excited to approach YACC and be able to actually bring two organizations that are very, very like-minded, but not just that, were very huge and very important to me, and actually kind of bring those two together. So it's a very, very, very unique and cool opportunity for me.
100%, 100%. And I think it's right. I mean, in this community, you see a lot of people involved, but with the men, it's kind of lacking. So it's nice to see that we can kind of bring out some more of that wolf mentality that I know Man Up to Cancer is really big into. And so what can attendees to Primetown really expect to learn from the session? And I'll just bring up the name of the session. So a fireside chat with Man Up to Cancer, the experiences of men impacted by young adult cancer. What can we kind of expect to learn from that session?
Yeah, so I think very plain and simply, I kind of want to let it speak for itself because it is very, very impactful. But to really sum it up, I think people are going to be absolutely blown away with how open and vulnerable and kind of just emotionally raw men could actually be when the right place, the right security, and kind of the right platform is actually created to create that space.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love how we just kind of dropped the mic there, and it's exactly what I'm looking for, Jay. That's awesome. I think a lot of people, men especially, can really learn a lot about being open and vulnerable in this position. So I'm pumped to kind of see what you guys can bring. And so obviously, to get people to know you a little bit, I'm going to throw one off of left field for my last question. If you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a curveball actually. So when I pre-read this question and tried to prep, right, I have a couple big tattoos of lions. Like I kind of love the idea of like that protect their family at all costs. But to be honest, over the last couple of years, I'm going to pull a little switch, and this is not cliche, and it has nothing to do with the topic, but I'm actually leaning towards a wolf, just because. You know, since I kind of became part of Man Up to Cancer, obviously, as you guys will learn, the wolf is kind of that's our animal. The wolf mentality, the pack mentality, really is kind of how that community functions and supports and protects each other. And it's taught me so much, like just learning about kind of that mentality and kind of really taking that and living that every day. Just awesome animal, and I would have to go with that.
I love it. I love it. That's not exactly what I hoped for. It's not exactly what I expected, but it's kind of what I hoped for as an answer. That's awesome. Yeah. So appreciate it, Jay. Listen, man, I appreciate you jumping on with me. I'm going to go get kind of settled and take off in a bit, but I'm hoping everyone's really looking forward to this session, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, thanks very much. I look forward to just showing the community a little bit more about what Man Up to Cancer has to offer.
Awesome. Thanks.